Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that never knew Week 11 could mean so much until right now. Welcome to the episode. I'm Dallas, and that's Matt. And on today's show, we are going to talk about Week 11 in the NFL, which includes Seahawks versus Rams. And since Drew's not here, we are going to talk a little bit about Seahawks versus Rams with each other, since we are, well represented in that game. We are also going to have a little talk about the 2024 QBs in the draft class there, because these guys are making headlines, and it's a good time to revisit them. And we're gonna try to re-rank them. We're gonna ask some questions about how good we think some of them are, how they stack up against each other. And we're also going to talk about the big news out of New York, where the Giants have fired their head coach. So, big show, packed show today. But first, before we get to all that, we want to run down Week 10 for you, as we always do. Going around the league in 20 seconds, the winners and losers from Week 10. So, in case you missed it, here we go. The winners were the Broncos, Colts, Jets, Texans, Dolphins, Patriots, Bears, Ravens, Saints, Lions, Seahawks, Rams, Chargers, and Eagles. The losers were the Raiders, the Falcons, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Bills, the Bucks, Giants, Vikings, Panthers, Commanders, Cardinals, Niners, Steelers, and Packers. So, Week 10 in the books. Some of these games, saying one team won and one team lost kind of reduces some of those games. I'm thinking about the Jaguars game versus the Texans. That game was extremely disappointing to watch. The Texans have the ability to crawl back there. You think about the Raiders and Broncos. Did anyone really win that game or no? And of course, a team that we had hyped up a little bit, and everyone really had hyped up with the Packers. They just, they pissed all over themselves on Monday night. And so, Week 10, what do you think?
Week 10 was, it's hard because it was such a polarizing week in terms of some of the games were such big blowouts. Teams were just asserting their dominance. Some teams looked really, really, really good. They looked very strong. And then, you see games like the Eagles and Packers, and yes, it's cold. I get that. The Packers, of all teams, should be able to play in the cold. And I saw that game and I just was like, oh my God, these are supposed to be two of the I forget our rankings already, but these are two teams that are widely seen as Super Bowl contenders. And they looked bad. It wasn't even just two good teams playing, whatever. They both just looked not that good at football. And so I think that's where it's just this was such a polarizing week because we saw some teams really establish themselves. And I feel like we saw a lot of teams kind of create more questions than answers via their performance this week.
Yeah, no question. It's getting to be where there's a very clear picture at the very top of both conferences, and then very muddled from the rest of the top all the way down. Really don't know what's what. The Bucks are in a skid right now that they can't seem to get out of. They can't seem to find momentum. They had a bye week in the middle, kind of truncated their, season a little bit. So that's happening. The Panthers beat a good team, lose to a bad team, every other week. So it's hard to say with them. But so it's things like that that just make you wonder, what the real deal is over here. But one team that knows where they stand, ostensibly, and, there are other factors that we'll talk about that go into perhaps making this decision now. But one team that knows where they stand is the New York Giants, because they have decided that it is time to punt on the 2025 season. They fired their head coach, Brian Daboll. He is out. Their offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, is going to step in as the interim head coach for the rest of the year. Now, obviously, this happened because Jackson Dart left the game with a concussion and is going to be out for a little bit. And this is already after losing Cam Scadaboo. Those two guys really injected some life into this Giants team in the first part of the year, and now they are gone. And so the Giants took the opportunity to fire their coach as a matter of that. So, what I want to ask you first is, what do you think? How much of the Giants' struggles through the last few years can be attributed to Brian Daboll himself? Let's start there.
I think, obviously, when a franchise is struggling, and especially when they have like sustained struggles over a period of time, everyone to a certain extent is to blame, right? Like, no one in New York is absent of fault when it comes to them being such a bad team the last few years. What I will say is that front office has continued to make the wrong moves. And I will stand by that. I mean, they were exposed in the dirtiest of ways through Hard Knocks, where, they missed out on keeping Saquon over like a couple million because they just didn't think that the market was there for Saquon. And it's like, it wouldn't have probably taken much effort to find out that teams were that interested. You had, what's his name? Joe Shane. His, son was up there talking about who he would have drafted, and a lot of the guys that he said he wanted to draft turned out to be hits in the draft, whereas that wasn't so much the case for the guys that the Giants drafted. And so it's like, when you've got your Madden playing, teenage son calling shots that turn out better than the ones you made as a, full-time GM in the NFL, I think that it begs the question, like, Daboll obviously is a little bit scapegoated here, but I'm just shocked that Joe Shane has not been canned either. There's the video that came out even from this draft where Joe Shane was really making it known, like, hey, the Jackson Dart pick, that is Daboll's pick. Like, that is the guy he wants, and if he wants him, we'll move up and get him. But then the theory is, okay, so you did move up and get his guy. You drafted this quarterback, and in his rookie year, you fire the coach. That is the reason that you moved up to get him. It's just, I don't know if it's just bad communication, if it's a lack of accountability. I don't know what it is, but no, at the end of the day, all the fault doesn't fall on Brian Daboll. And, Brian Daboll's proven over his career, he can be a very capable offensive mind in the NFL. And he is capable of developing quarterbacks and running offenses. He doesn't get all the credit in the world for it, but he was a major factor in the development of Josh Allen, and he ran really successful offenses that developed players back in Alabama. Like, he has a proven track record, and I can't believe that, if they were going to fire one, I think they should have fired both, is I think where I'm at. To keep Joe Shane in that role and not keep Brian Daboll at least through the end of the year, to me feels just like you're putting a bad message out there to other coaches who would come to work there, right? Joe Shane may say, okay, like, it's your guy, like, we'll go move him, and he puts all the blame and pushes it onto somebody else, and then there's just zero accountability for him. So I don't know, man. Giants just continue to look like a disaster class of a franchise. It sucks. There's a lot of players on that team that I really enjoy, and I hope for their sake they bring in a good coach and hopefully a good front office as well.
Yeah, I think I might have hinted at it when I mentioned Jackson Dart's injury, but I do think this is a product of that. I don't know if Daboll would have survived the offseason. I don't know about that, but I think that the timing of this now does, with Cam Scadaboo's injury and Jackson Dart's injury, I think this firing is a product of that. They were ready to do it, and they took a chance on it right now. Without Jackson Dart's injury, though, I think that the GM pushing the blame or the decision to draft him on Daboll could have backfired on him, because he was playing well. He actually turned out to show stuff that is really good, and he was putting them in positions to win games. Now, were they winning those games? Not, they blown a fourth quarter lead here and there with Jackson Dart at quarterback. They blew one this weekend, but that was because Jackson Dart left the game probably. And so, and to say of Jackson Dart, I think if he doesn't change his play style quickly, he won't last very long. But he's shown that he can be pretty good. And so if given time, and if he hadn't gotten hurt, I think that the GM's decision to say he's Daboll's guy, that might have backfired on him and might have bought Daboll another year if he had played well this year and the Giants finished better than last year. But yeah, so I think that, just unfortunate timing for Brian Daboll himself. And Mike Kafka's first decision as head coach, they're going to play Jameis Winston. They're not going with Russ.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. It makes a very good case for, the Giants still wanting to try to win games this year, is what I'll say. The decision to go with Jameis and not Russ, it's a decision that seems to be motivated by wanting to win some games, if possible. Because going with Russ would just be, after what we saw on Sunday, would just be, that would be tank mode.
That would be wrong for the fans.
Yeah, they hate that guy. They really hate him, and they don't want to see him out there. So, good for Jameis Winston. I think he'll get a shot again to entertain us and make us have some fun. But looking forward for the Giants, who would you say? I don't even know who's out there. Like what college coaches might be ready to make the jump, or what coordinators might be ready to jump ship to take over a job. But who would you, or what kind of person would you want to take over the Giants if you can't think of someone specific?
I think there's a couple interesting options out there. I'll pick one NFL guy, one college guy. From the NFL level, I know this is crazy. Because Brian Daboll and, Joe Shane, all these guys, they came over from Buffalo, and they were supposed to recreate kind of the Buffalo culture, the Buffalo mentality. They wanted to recreate the success they had in Buffalo. Buffalo's got an offensive coordinator right now who's looking like he's going to be at the top of the coaching cycle here. Joe Brady, he's had success in the league. He's had success in a lot of places he's been. And he kind of seems like one of the next guys up as the great offensive coordinator. That seems to be the trend still in the NFL, is you need that coordinator, that offensive quarterback guru, whatever you want to call it, but you need that guy who's going to help take your rookie quarterback, your second year quarterback, third year, your young quarterback, and make him excel further and deeper in his career. So I think Joe Brady's a really valid option. Keeps him in the state, doesn't have to really move all that far. But is a guy who, again, has a lot of work with, or experience working with Josh Allen, who Jackson Dart kind of plays similarly to. I mean, he's overly physical at times, puts himself at risk, a bit of a gunslinger and a risk taker. So, you can see the similarities, and you saw some of the success he was having with Daboll. But now just bringing in the most recent version of that Bills culture and offense. I could see that working out. The other person who I think would be really fun, and I don't know how realistic this is, but his name has been being floated around in a number of different areas. I haven't seen it yet for the Giants, so, if I'm the first one on record as saying this and turns out they try it, props to the pod. We called one. Lane Kiffin. Coach of Ole Miss. I don't know if you guys know this. Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss. Bring his old college coach back up. I mean, we've seen this with Cliff Kingsbury. He was originally brought up to the NFL to be the offensive coordinator and head coach for Kyler Murray, who he had experience working with in college. And I think, why not bring that continuity where we know he can kind of get the best out of him? It's a name, at least, who I think could command the respect of the New York media. I know it's a huge thing taking over one of the New York teams. There's so much scrutiny involved. You're just under maybe the world's largest microscope. when it comes to sports is playing and coaching and being a part of New York sports. Um, and this is a guy who I think could handle that. I mean, he, in my opinion, everything he's done as of late in the media has been good. There's never been a time where I've watched him in the media and been like, oh, that's embarrassing for this guy. Like, he handled the situation with his daughter dating the guy at LSU well. He handled all the stuff that goes on with his players, like his team success, his team's issues. I don't know. I think Lane Kiffin would be a really fun one. I don't think it's realistic, though. So if I had to guess, Joe Brady. I don't know. There's something about that continuity that I love in football. Just keeping something good going.
Yeah, and this kind of bleeds into my next question, too, so we can kind of talk about that next. But I think that this would be a good job to bring in a ringer, head coach. Like, bring somebody in who can do this thing. Because getting into the next question, the last question, we'll talk about the Giants. But is this an attractive job? I think it might be. Because, with Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo and Malik Neighbors on the offense, that's a good trio as we've seen it so far. Like, it's a trio with really good upside is what I'll say about it.
Yeah.
It has really good upside if they can be in the right system together and play all year together. And then, the defense is the other part where you have a defensive line that's just like crazy good and has crazy good players on it, and players with really high ceilings too. Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau, and on the defense too is and Abdul Carter, the new rookie, and Brian Burns over there as well. And so if you can figure out the secondary, that could be a pretty good unit too. So they are a couple of pieces away from being a team that has a pretty good ceiling to them. And so I think this might be an attractive job for a head coach who knows what they're doing. Or that ringer college guy who wants his next shot at it. So yeah, I think that it is an attractive job, and I think it'd be a good spot for someone with someone who you think could really do it well to come in.
Yeah, like you're saying, that defense I think is a lot closer than it looks in the box score and on the field, because again, they have so much talent at rushing the passer, and that is like, piece number one when it comes to building an NFL defense is you either need to rush the passer at an elite level, or you need to have elite coverage guys who make the pass rushers get home. Like, it's one or the other. Sometimes you play the complementary defense. They have the pass rushers, and they've got too many pass rushers. Like, they don't have enough snaps to give to their pass rushers. And then you just look at the other side. Yeah, like you said, they've got Malik Neighbors. They have Cam Scadaboo. They've got Jackson Dart. They haven't performed well, but Darius Slayton, I believe, is a good receiver. You look and you got the Biletnikoff winner from college and Jalen Hyatt. You got Wan'Dale Robinson, who's kind of turned into a PPR, slot receiver monster. And they've got a couple tight ends and Theo Johnson. They look all right. And their tackles. You got Andrew Thomas, who, when he's healthy, looks like an all-pro left tackle. They drafted Evan Neal, who to this point has been kind of a bust. But that's a top 10 pick, I believe, out of Alabama. And it's like, you got all this potential. And I think that's the big word in New York right now is it's potential. And you're in New York. Like, there's all the outside of football potential. And so, yeah, I think this is absolutely an attractive job, and especially an attractive job to someone who actually believes in Jackson Dart. I think that's one of the biggest things, too, is like, all right, you've got this guy for 4 more years. Do you actually believe, as a coach, do you have the conviction that this guy can get it done? And if you do, yeah, this is one of the better jobs potentially that's come out in a while. I still think there's questions about Joe Shane and about that front office, but if you can get past that, and if you can, have that meeting and you guys have a shared vision, maybe this just is, lightning in a bottle waiting to happen. I genuinely could see that.
Yeah, Yeah, who's to say what is in store for the Giants this year? I think, we'll see how it plays out. But in the offseason, they may be a very intriguing team to watch. So let's keep our eye on them as
You
the
want to know
offseason goes on.
one ringer coach? I'm just thinking about this. The dude loves him. He loves Jackson Dart. This guy loves Jackson Dart. Met with him in the pre-draft process. There's videos of him everywhere talking about this guy. Do you know who I'm about to say?
I think I might, yes.
Yeah, and he would be the absolute perfect definition of a ringer to bring in as a coach who can get it done. What are the odds a guy like John Gruden comes and takes over in New York?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, for sure, something to keep an eye on. I think because I'm pretty sure he would walk back in at some point.
Yeah, I think if they offered it to him, I think he would take it.
Yeah. So you might be right. Watch that space for sure because I think that's an interesting idea.
It would be awesome.
But moving to sort of the next topic I have for our show today, we wanted to talk about the 2024 QBs because these guys are all in their second year now. They are making noise, and we thought it might be a good spot of the season to sort of reassess them. It's the dog days of the NFL season, kind of in a way, even though there are big games coming up this week. It kind of feels like this is the treading water part of the season. So take a pause here to take away from like week to week game action and talk about just a general idea, which is these guys. So to remind the audience, if you don't know, 2024 QBs at the top of the draft were Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake Maye, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. So like I said, these guys are dominating the headlines week in and week out, for better or for worse, right? So if they ball out, some of them are balling out. Some of them are treading water. Some of them are just not performing well at all. And so, we wanted to talk about them. So what I want to do first is just ask, go back to draft day for you. You watch that first round, you see 6 quarterbacks go. How have your opinions of these guys changed since that day? And let's, I don't know. We can start with, let's start with Caleb Williams. How has your opinion of him changed since draft day? All the ups and downs he's been through.
Caleb Williams is someone, and I'll say this for the context of the conversation surrounding him, I'm still a believer in Caleb Williams. I still believe that every physical aspect is there. He has all the tools. It's just a matter of putting them together and having the team around him. And I think we've seen that. I mean, I feel like this Ben Johnson offense, has shown enough of the flashes of Caleb Williams. It's limited the turnovers of Caleb Williams. He's not taking the same sacks. They finally integrated a run game. And all of a sudden, I mean, don't look now, the Bears would be a playoff team. Don't look now, the Bears are currently in possession of a playoff spot. And I don't think that's, in no small part due to Caleb Williams. They re-signed, what is his name, Tyler Bagent or whatever, the backup guy there. They re-signed him. This is not a playoff team if he's the starting quarterback. Plain and simple. Caleb Williams is a special playmaker, and the big knock on him was that in the attempt to make the special plays, he would make crucial mistakes. And so far this year, I feel like Ben Johnson's really been limiting those, bone-crushing, soul-crushing mistakes. And all of a sudden, they're pretty good. So Caleb Williams, I'm very high on. I think, again, all the tools are there. Seems like he's chilled out some in his second year. He's not so much in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. And I think he's just kind of getting more into the rhythm of being an NFL quarterback, and I think we're just going to continue to see that progression. Because I don't think Ben Johnson is going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. He's done certainly enough this year to you figure he'll at least ride out the current contract he's on. So they'll ride it out with them together, hopefully. over the years.
Yeah.
And, he's only getting better, I think, as well. So, I think he's looked a lot more stable this year than the last couple of years. Next one I want to talk about, because I know you have opinions on this guy. I'm interested to know if you had an opinion of him on draft day as well. But JJ McCarthy is the next one I want to talk about. So did you have an opinion of him on draft day? And if so, how is it different than what it is now? Or is it?
My opinion of him was that I didn't think he was the best quarterback. I thought he was a good football player. There's a difference. Look at Taysom Hill. Some guys, it's so hard to say. One of the biggest things that I saw with JJ McCarthy, and this, I couldn't even tell you the guy's name. I apologize if for some godforsaken reason the person who tweeted this video, it finds me and gets mad at me. Your credit to you. He showed a video breaking down JJ McCarthy tape, and this was pre-draft even, and he was showing JJ McCarthy has this weird mental inability to throw to the left side of the field. And it's not even like, oh, he's, slightly less efficient and his ball has slightly less velocity. It's like, nope. Literally in college, you go look at the stats. When he had to throw to the left side of the field, it was night and day in terms of his production. We're talking like substantial, going from top tier Heisman level production throwing to the right or to the middle to why would this guy ever be playing the sport throwing to the left? All the turnovers, incompletions, poor passer rating, all this stuff. There's this weird thing that he does where he loses his mechanics and he kind of like flares open when he's throwing to the left, and it causes him to just overthrow. And he's trying too hard to throw to the left. The very first game we saw him, week 1 against the Bears, he looked great. And then you want to know what bit him in the ass? Was he tried to throw to the left and immediately had a pick six. And yes, they ended up having a good second half. I can't tell you that any of that good second half had him throwing to the left side of the field. It was a lot of down the field, down the seam. It was a lot of roll out, passing to the right. That's the type of limitation that gets coaches fired eventually. That's the type of limitation that will get him not like banished from the NFL, but he will struggle to find a starting gig past this rookie contract. Because if you essentially eliminate half the field from your play caller, you're doomed. Like, you're cooked. And if you can't figure that out and get that coached out and figured out at the NFL level, there's reason to believe you never will, right? This is the last level of coaching that you're going to reach. And, it would be one thing if he was playing for the Jets or, some team where you don't believe in the coaches. Kevin O'Connell's been the saving grace for like a handful of NFL quarterbacks in the league right now. And, you can speak to this. You've seen the progress made with Sam Darnold. The Colts right now, they had Daniel Jones for about half the season. Like, a lot of guys who come in and revitalize themselves in this Minnesota environment. And so far, JJ McCarthy, in my opinion, does not look the part. And granted, he was not like such a high pick. Like, he was a first round pick, obviously. But like, he was not such a high pick that it's like, oh, that's just the worst thing that could have happened. But at the same time, like, they gave up Sam Darnold, right? Like, they gave up on Sam for JJ McCarthy. Sam, who only lost to the Rams and the Lions, beat every other team. Sam, who got MVP votes in that offense in his first year in that offense. The same Sam who had Justin Jefferson dominating, right? I mean, we haven't seen Justin Jefferson have a dominant game really this entire season. They got rid of Sam, who was cost-friendly and team-friendly, and all because they believed in JJ McCarthy. And you let this guy walk out, and Sam now looks legitimately like the real deal. He looks like he's gotten even better in the offseason. And you're stuck with this team that's kind of middling. Like, you have all this talent, and their offense isn't really going anywhere, and really the only change that was made in the offseason was switching from Sam to JJ. Say what you will, but they didn't have a single change in their offense. Like, it's not like they're rocking a new left tackle or a new center or a new play caller. It's the same running back. It's the same receivers. It's the same offensive line. It's the same tight end. There is like no change except the quarterback, and the results are drastically different.
Yep. I mean, it does speak for itself a little bit when you watch the difference between the two teams from last year to this year. I think it does. When you can point to the one difference, that tells a lot about what that difference is and what it's like. So I think you have it's good thoughts there. Next guy I want to talk about is Michael Penix Jr. So this is the famous sort of Falcons came up out of the second round back into the first round to draft him when they had signed Kirk Cousins in the offseason to be their quarterback. So how is Michael Penix Jr. looking for you in the NFL in his first full season as a starter?
Yeah. I really thought that he was going to be really good. I believed what I saw at Washington, and I'm willing to admit I was wrong. I thought that he was an elite passer. I thought that he had really great accuracy, and I thought that he could anticipate with the best of them in college, at least. I just thought so highly of him as a quarterback. I liked that he was a lefty that finally wasn't built around purely being an athlete. It was like, hey, this is just a dude who slings the rock. Like, this guy just goes out and puts up 400 yards through the air, pinpointing guys downfield. And you can see, I mean, not many guys in the NFL have that, like, zip on the ball that he does. Like, when he throws the ball, it gets where it's going. When you watch a Falcons game, you are impressed by some of his throws. But then you also realize he's missing half of them. And he's missing really open guys. And it's another really bad sign as a quarterback when you can't hit the easy routes. Like, it is one thing to be able to hit a guy on a go route or, on a deep post, whatever, and you can really lead them to the deep part of the field. But if you can't hit that like 5 yard, 7 yard out route, if you can't hit the 6, 7, 10 yard button hook, you're pretty much like, again, you're losing so much value for your offense, and you can't keep an offense moving is, I think, the issue. And that's what we've seen with the Falcons is at times they look like this incredibly explosive, like damn near impossible to stop offense, where when he's in a rhythm and he's hitting his guys, they have so much talent on that team. But then there's times where, they lose 30-0 to the Panthers. And that is just a product of that offense. I think in that game, he threw 2 pick sixes. Like, he just isn't always accurate, and that will forever be his curse. Yeah, it's a bummer to see because I really was very high on him. And he's, as of now, obviously these guys are young. Don't give up on them. But that is not a good sign. Usually accuracy is not the thing you can coach up super well. So, yeah, it's not the thing you want to be coaching.
Right, exactly. Just more headache for the Falcons. Having all these weapons and still not able to get
frustratingly mid. Frustratingly mid.
Shout out to last week's show. Go check out our team tiers from last week to see where we put the Falcons and how we describe that. Okay, next guy. Let's go with Drake Maye. He was in there too. So what do you think? How has your opinion of him changed since draft day?
This might be my biggest change. I didn't believe in him at all. If I'm being fully honest, I did not see it. I was wrong. I thought that the Patriots were once again being bad in the post-Belichick era. I thought that they had made a mistake. I thought that this was going to be Mac Jones all over. I thought, this is just going to continue this pattern of very average Patriots franchise. And I was wrong. And it's weird because I don't hate him either. And I'll explain. And the explanation for that is I hate the Patriots a lot. And I don't hate Drake Maye. And he plays really well. And he's made me not root for the Patriots, but he makes me not hate them so much. And I think that says a lot to me about the type of player he is. And I don't know, I feel like he's just one of those guys that you respect, like, the game he plays. He's not out there looking to pick up the cheesy yards. He's not out there calling for penalties every time he gets hit. He just goes out there and puts it on the line. He kind of reminds me of, like, Baker Mayfield, but right now Baker Mayfield, not like young Baker Mayfield.
Right.
In terms of his play style, obviously no one matches Baker Mayfield as a trash talker, but in terms of play style, he just reminds me of like a Baker Mayfield, and I think that's awesome. I love Baker Mayfield's game. So that's one of my biggest compliments if I'm calling you a Baker Mayfield type. So yeah, good for him, man. I did not believe in him at all.
Yeah. He looks legit, man. He looks like the real deal. Was he a clone of Tom Brady? We know he's experimented with cloning technology now. The theories are out there.
The time frame adds up from North Carolina.
The theories are out there. Go check them out if you have some time. But was this all part of the plan? All along. Who's to say? But, I see a situation where, he was like Dash from The Incredibles throughout college. He was holding back so that he could fall to the Patriots, on purpose. And that he would, and so, it was all part of the grand scheme executed by Tom Brady, who is also, who is also scheming to, destroy the Raiders from the NFL forever. Tuck rule game wasn't enough. He wanted to destroy them. So he's working from the inside now to hurt the Raiders. But, enough about Tom Brady as a mastermind. We have two more quarterbacks to talk about. One is Jaden Daniels. So not much from him this year, but a lot from him last year. He made the NFC Championship last year. So, a lot of it might come from last year, but include a little bit of this year too if you want. How has your opinion of him changed since you saw him drafted?
My opinion has not changed on his play style. He was the guy I wanted Jaden Daniels to be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. I really believed that if he would have fallen down into second, third, fourth round, whatever. Whoa!
You don't know how good you're talking. You don't know how good.
Yeah, that's actually crazy.
So we're talking about Jaden Daniels right now. We have one quarterback left to talk about in our quarterback discussion. Can you guess who it is? So we'll get to you and your guy, but welcome Drew to the show. Welcome, buddy.
That's crazy. But yeah, so I wanted Jaden Daniels to be the heir apparent to the Rams. I had a mock draft all over, and there was conversations happening in draft media that he was, being mocked anywhere from 2 to end of the first. I really liked Jaden Daniels. I liked his game. At LSU, he was like the most accurate deep ball thrower in the country. He's just got a pretty ball. And it's just, my only thoughts with him, he's great. Obviously, he's great. When he's on the field, he looks incredible. He looks like a poised quarterback. He looks ahead of his years. The similarities that are drawn to RG3 are scary. Even down to the injury location, everything. Like, it's just one of those things, like, you don't want to see a guy going through the same things that RG3 did. Like, it ruined a very promising career. So I hope for the best for him, man. But as far as, like, how we feel about him, the dude's a star quarterback. Like I think at this point, it's already at that level. When he's on the field, the team as a whole is a lot better.
Yeah. Any Jaden Daniels thoughts, Drew, before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer that we haven't got to see him play much this year because I think we can't really truly evaluate him against these other guys because if you take in only last year, he was obviously the best. But then we just haven't seen him this year. So it's tough when you're that new to the NFL to miss that much time. But I feel better about him moving forward than a lot of these guys.
All right. Right on. So let's talk about our last guy. And it's great that Drew's here because it's his guy. Bo Nix is our last quarterback we're going to talk about. So how has your guys' opinions of Bo Nix changed since draft day? And we'll start with Drew.
Well, it's been, it's like one of those earthquake graphs, up and down, really. When we drafted him, I was not high on him. I famously don't watch a ton of college football anyways, but like I knew about him from Oregon and saw some of his tape, and I know he lost those big games to Washington, and I just wasn't in love with him. And then when all the other quarterbacks were taken and we were sitting there at 12 and we took him quarterback 6 in the draft at the 12th overall pick, I just really thought that was going to be something we'd regret. And then I was dead wrong last year because after, maybe a slow start out of the gate, he was everything the Broncos needed, led us to the playoffs for the first time it was 9 years, I believe. And then this year we're at 8-2. And if you would have told me that at the beginning of the year, I would have been like, all right, Bo Nix, business as usual. He's been great. That hasn't really been the case. He's had a lot of nice, like, fourth quarter comebacks, and he shows flashes of this super athletic quarterback who can really make plays. But for the most part, he just doesn't look like someone you can trust out there. He looks kind of antsy and sporadic. His throws are not very accurate. I saw some stat, I don't have the exact thing, but that he was like missing his open wide receivers by like a wide margin more than anyone else in the NFL this year. He's sitting at around 60% completion percentage. These are just themes that I don't really like to see in my quarterback, but I also have him in fantasy, and like every week he's putting up at the end of the game, it's like a pretty decent game. So like the stats are there, but if you're watching him week in, week out, there are things missing in his game that I need to see improve.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the quarterbacks I think where like the box score lies a little bit. Because like you're saying, he turns it on at points of the game, but it's completely out of sync in other parts. And the end result looks okay, but you'd love to see consistency out of them. As far as it goes, like from my, pre-draft last year, it's pretty much what I thought. I never thought Bo Nix was going to be this high-end, like super talent in the league. But what I know about Bo Nix is he had like 1,000 starts in college. He's the son of a football coach. Like this is a dude who is just a football player through and through at his core. And you can see that, like the ability to turn it on in a fourth quarter means something, right? Like not everyone just all of a sudden becomes better in the clutch. That is a skill that's not really coachable, not really teachable. And so that bodes well for a guy like him. And, he's got a pretty solid situation around him that's allowing him to go through these struggles and work through these struggles. I saw a stat that was showing the top 5 teams in terms of sack differential of the last 25 years. And the 2024 Broncos and 2025 Broncos are number 2 and 3 on that list, meaning they get the most sacks and take the least sacks. And so it's like they really are setting up Bo Nix to succeed. And you just got to hope that he breaks through whatever yips are happening this year because the situation around him is fantastic. Like you've got the great defense. You've got a pretty I mean, pretty good. You got a really good offensive line. The run game is so-so, but you got solid receivers. Sean Payton calling the plays. Like it's a good situation for a quarterback. I still believe in Bo Nix.
They're 8-2 for a reason.
And yeah, they're 8-2. I mean, at the end of the day, winning is the most important stat, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so to round out our discussion here, I'm going to go lightning round a few questions. These are very easy, one answer questions. And we'll go Matt first, then Drew to answer the questions, and we'll move 1-1. So, okay, cool. Which of these guys would you want as your franchise quarterback as of today?
As of today, give me Caleb Williams.
I think I didn't hear everything Matt had to say, and maybe I would have been swayed differently. But as of now, I would say Drake Maye would be the guy I'd want.
We had much positive things to say about Drake Maye, for sure. Okay, so next question. Who wins the Super Bowl first? Because the answers to those questions can be different.
I'm going to say... I think I'm going to say Bo Nix. And it's not that I think he's going to go on some Nick Folesian run and just dominate the playoffs or anything. I just think you look at the rosters, you look at the defenses that these other quarterbacks have. The Broncos just seemed like the most ready to take that next step of any of these teams. Now, that could change quickly in an offseason with a couple of moves here or there. But as of now, I would say the Broncos are the best positioned, and I don't think Bo Nix will screw it up bad enough, to prevent them from winning a Super Bowl if they were in that position.
Yeah, I was torn between Bo Nix and Drake Maye, but I think you've swayed me. Of all these guys' teams, I do think the Broncos roster is the best one. I think Caleb Williams, low-key, has the second best roster around him, but I still think I think the Lions or the Bears are still a little bit further out. And there's something about the AFC playoff picture where I'm like, the teams that were once unbeatables are very beatable right now. And there's no team in the AFC that feels so dominant that it makes you lose hope.
Right. The path is, you play your best game in the playoffs, and we've seen how these other playoff teams have looked in the playoffs in recent years, whether it's the Bills, the Steelers, the Texans, whoever. There's definitely a path to the Super Bowl, and then once you're there, you just hope the NFC team had a tough enough way into the game that you can steal a win. But yeah, I mean, Bo Nix would probably, if you told me one of these guys was going to win the Super Bowl this year, I would have to guess it would be Bo Nix.
Okay. All right. So last question, which one is most likely to thrive with a team that didn't draft him?
I'm going to go with Michael Penix. When I look at just the offensive side of things, I like the offensive coaching in Chicago. I like the offensive coaching in Washington. I like the offensive coaching happening in New England. I like the offensive coaching in Minnesota. I like the offensive coaching in Denver. The one place where I'm not super thrilled about the offensive coaches is Atlanta. And, we talked about them being a super frustrating team. They have infinite talent and still can't seem to get things going consistently. But I think Michael Penix of all these guys might be the best thrower of the football. So if you could get him into a situation where he can really just dial it in, I mean, I think he'd be lights out. At least could be.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Michael Penix also because, there's four guys, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Drake Maye. I think those four guys are not going to switch teams anytime soon. That just doesn't feel like the path. JJ McCarthy, I don't know. It kind of depends how things shake out. But I could see Michael Penix being moved this offseason or something. It's seems like the leash has not been very long for him. And he was someone I was very high on out of college. Because when I did watch, I was watching these playoff games and these, Pac-12 championship games and things like that where Michael Penix looks like the best player on the field. And so if he could get into a scheme where, it's just like the Falcons just seem cursed, like weapon after weapon that are among the best athletes in the game and just still a middling team at best. I think there's a lot of places he could go and look a lot better than he does right now.
Yep. All right. Yeah. So it's interesting because it was going to be one of the two guys, JJ McCarthy or Michael Penix Jr. The answer to that question probably. So I'm interested by the fact that maybe it's the thrive part that made you guys not choose JJ McCarthy because you don't know if it's possible for him anywhere. But yeah. So yeah, interesting there because I do think we could see him move. That team and that coach is very highly motivated right now. So, but I like Michael Penix Jr.'s skill set. Yeah, I do. Okay, moving on so we're going to do the next couple segments a little different. We're going to start Fan Corner with the Broncos, and then we're going to combine the rest of Fan Corner and predictions, and we're going to talk a little bit in depth about the Rams-Seahawks game. So that'll cover Rams and Seahawks for Fan Corner, and then for the predictions, we're going to give a winner, a score, and then I have an over/under for us that I'm going to have us pick as well. Let's get started with the Broncos in Fan Corner.
Yeah, so they got the spotlight on Thursday night this past week, and they played the Raiders in Denver wearing those throwback uniforms. They look so awesome, but they played just good enough to beat a very bad Raiders team, and it was an ugly, ugly game. It was super windy. So, I guess, take that for what it's worth. But regardless, neither team could move the ball. Neither team could get first downs for much of the game. The special teams were bad. It was just an ugly game. And my takeaway from it is that the Broncos just play down to their opponents, and that's a real problem. Because they did this against the Jets when they played them in London. They did it against the Texans to some extent. I know they're a tier above the Jets or the Raiders, but they play a lot of close games. And granted, they're winning these games, so there's only so much I can complain about. But it doesn't instill you with a lot of confidence come playoffs when your two losses are against the Chargers and the Colts, who are, as of now, playoff teams. So I got to see improvements. It's going to be a tough week. We play the Chiefs this week, and it's after the Chiefs bye, which, like Andy Reid, is notoriously good at winning right after his bye week. And then we have our bye week. So no Pat Surtain again. We'll see how this game goes. I'm not expecting much, but in the Broncos' defense, they play down to opponents, but they also play up to opponents, and they haven't been blown out in any games or anything like that. They haven't looked completely overmatched. So we'll see what happens. It's a big one. If the Broncos win, it's and not officially, but it basically means the Chiefs will not be winning the West. I think that'll make like a 3-game gap plus one end of the tiebreaker for now. So big game. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not necessarily super optimistic.
Yeah, it's definitely time to see, after a couple weeks of, it's time to see what the Broncos are made of, and we'll check it out this week. So I'm excited to see it. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to go Seahawks, and I'm going to give one advantage I think the Seahawks have in the Seahawks-Rams matchup. Then, Matt, I'd like you to go Rams and give me an advantage you think the Rams have in the matchup. And then we'll make our predictions. So it should be, fairly smooth here. So, okay, so Seahawks. I'm on the Seahawks here. We didn't learn anything about them in Week 10. They beat a team that doesn't belong on the field with them. They've been doing that a lot this year. So that's all I got for the Week 10. I am incapable of thinking about anything else but the Rams game this week. So one advantage that I think the Seahawks have against the Rams is our receivers versus the Rams secondary. I think that this is a spot where it's going to rely on the offensive line to hold up a little bit, which is going to be difficult. And Matt might get to that, maybe, maybe not. But it's going to be difficult for this offensive line to hold up long enough for the receivers to cook against this secondary. But I think if they are given time, they are going to be able to. Obviously, Seattle has this year's best receiver from a statistical standpoint and things like that, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. So I like his odds to have a nice game if he can be allowed to do his thing. I'm interested to see what kind of things the Seahawks do to get him open quickly, to get Rashid Shaheed open quickly as well, because these are guys who can definitely burn you deep. But I do not anticipate the Seahawks expecting to have that kind of time, at least right away, when the game starts. So I'm very interested to see what they have. I'm also interested to see if Cooper Kupp can come through for Seattle here. He is, and as the season has gone on, he has been better at this. But he is that nice option on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 to run to the sticks, turn around, sit, and catch the ball, and then fall down, which we like. And so I'm interested to see if they
You're
can get him
talking
involved.
about Seahawks third down specialist Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. He hasn't done it a ton this year, but I'd like to see him make it happen this week, because it would be nice for him, for me to see that happen against the Rams. So I'm interested to see how they incorporate everybody into a style of offense that gets people open quick and gets the Sam out of ball's hands. The ball out of Sam's hands quickly to start the game, because I think that is a key and a recipe for success. And these guys are good route runners. And so I think that, Jackson Smith-Njigba and Rashid Shaheed, and even Cooper Kupp to a degree still a little bit, even though he's only got one good hamstring right now, he can still be a decent route runner. So I'd like their odds to get somebody open quick, and then maybe it'll help that open up the deep game later. So I think that's one advantage Seattle has over the Rams. I do think that's like the only one, maybe. I think that's one. So, all right, Matt, give us any thoughts on the Rams Week 10 that you have, and then one advantage for the Rams against Seattle this week.
Yeah, the Rams came out and pretty much just stomped on the 49ers. This was a good revenge game, considering how the first part of that series went earlier this year. The Rams right now look like, one of the two hottest teams in football coming out of Week 10. That's all I'll say about that. I am calling this part 1 of a 3-game NFC Championship series. I really do believe this is the preview of that. Especially with the way some of the other top teams in the NFC are playing right now. Obviously, there's still a good chunk of season left to go. Injuries happen, things change. But we're talking right now, Week 11. This is the best 2 teams in maybe football, let alone just the NFC. If I had to give an advantage, it's hard because there's not a lot of advantages. The Rams will probably be one of the best, if not the best, pass rush unit that the Seahawks will face this year. And in the same breath, the same can be said about the Seattle pass rush and front 7 facing us. We did get to see the 49ers without Bosa or Warner. So I take those guys out. I would put Seattle above that front 7. Seattle will have one of the best front 7s we will face. The one thing I will say that we have going for our advantage, realistically, is that Matthew Stafford as a Ram doesn't lose to Seattle. Matthew Stafford against Seattle in his career as a Ram, to my knowledge, is 5-0.
I'd buy that.
Not something I normally. I believe he is 5-0. If Drew wants to fact check me on that, please do. But that's pretty much what it is. It's the experience, and he has beaten Mike McDonald before. If I had to give like a schematic advantage, we have McVay moving into this 13-14 personnel packaging and really going heavy is something we haven't seen since his Washington days. And I do think this is the most efficient the Rams offense has ever looked. And I was on the phone with my dad talking about it. You don't even realize what's happening in these Rams games until you look at the end and the Rams are, 300 yards passing, 120, 150 yards rushing, averaging 6.5 yards a play. And Matthew Stafford is the only quarterback in NFL history, I believe, where he is either 4 straight games of 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. It's something like that. No quarterback's ever done it. So this new offense that Sean McVay is working in right now, with all of our tight ends getting involved, ex-Seahawks legend Colby Parkinson getting involved, I just think that there's an interesting matchup to be had here, where Seattle's defense has been so good. I believe in terms of scoring, opponent scoring, the Rams are the number 2 defense, and Seattle's the number 4 defense as of right now. Broncos number 5. So, hooray for the boys! We got good defense. It's gonna be, a brick wall facing a brick wall. Like, I don't know if this game is gonna be 30-30 or if it's gonna be 10-10. Like, it really could swing either way. I don't know. I don't even know if I listed a real advantage, but I like this new scheme we're running. Keep you guys honest, because Stafford can still sling it with the best of them. So as long as he's got time.
But you did
No,
pick a
something
good
interesting.
advantage. Good. What is it?
Matthew Stafford, since joining the Rams, is 5-0 against the Seahawks, but there's 3 games in that time where he didn't play against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks won all 3 of those. So it's really...
There you go.
If he can stay healthy, we got a chance here.
Yeah. There it is. Well,
I don't know.
Say
But
this.
here's the thing: you give the heavy package. Has Jimmy G? Drew, find out Jimmy G's record against the Seahawks.
specifically as a Niner.
I don't think it's good. I don't think he may not have ever won. I don't know. I might be wrong on that, but he might have never been excited.
Was he? Wasn't he good with the? I feel like his 49ers.
He was good with the Niners. I don't think he was ever good against Seattle with the Niners, but there's some Niner quarterback.
I'm figuring it out little by little.
Okay. Well, while you figure that out, let me tell you, Matt, you picked my advantage that I would have given the Rams over the Seahawks. It is the heavy tight end usage, and let me tell you why. I'm going to read you tight end statistics for the Seahawks this year, for tight ends against the Seahawks defense.
Read me something.
Pat Freiermuth, week 2, 10.3 yards per catch. Juwan Johnson in week 4, 8.5 yards per catch. Trey McBride, 7.5 yards a catch. Cade Otton, 20.3 yards a catch. Dalton Schultz, 10.9 yards per catch. Zach Ertz, 11.5 yards a catch. And Trey McBride, the second time, 14.1 yards a catch. This is where the Seahawks defense struggles, and it's because they're missing people in that secondary who can cover. And so you are correct. The advantage for the Rams here is their heavy tight end usage, because it is the weakness of the Seahawks defense, 100%.
Colby Parkinson legacy game incoming.
Watch out. Okay. So
Jimmy G's been bad against the Seahawks. You were right.
Yeah. I don't know that's the way. I would start him. Go ahead. I would like you to. Okay, so while we're working on that too, let's go on to the last part of this, which is predictions here. So our predictions for this week are going to be around this game. So we're going to give a winner and a loser. We're going to give a score, And then the over-under I have for us is for Matt Stafford and Sam Darnold to combine for over or under 5.5 touchdowns. So all together. So I'll start. I am taking the Rams. My score is 23-20. And I think that for me, it comes down to this game is going to be close, I think. And if we've seen the Seahawks, or I've seen the Seahawks be in a position where the offense had to go down and win the game in a close game. They did that twice. They were unsuccessful against the Niners. They were successful against the Cardinals. I've seen them be in a position where the defense had to get a stop to win the game once, and it was against the Bucs, and they did not do it. And so in a situation where I think the game's going to be close and could come down to needing a stop or going down to win the game, I'll take the Rams to do either one of those over what I'll take the Seahawks to do. And so I think they'll play with them, but I think it'll be close, and my score is 23-20. And then I'll go under, obviously, on the touchdowns.
Damn you, Dallas. Taking the Rams. I hate it. It's just like you play mind games.
It makes sense to me. I can see it unfolding.
Well, I have the Rams winning, and I have them winning 31-30. I think that this is low-key a game where the offenses for these teams are better than the defenses. I think JSN could have a monster game. I think Cooper Kupp could have a legacy game. I could see AJ Barner scoring 2 touchdowns. Like, there is a world where Seattle's able to, like, kind of stymie our defense. But I think the same can be said about Stafford and this new look offense. Because we look good right now. I mean, we've gone like 4 or 5 straight games scoring 30 points. Stafford is looking like maybe the best he's ever looked. Puka's healthy. Devontae Adams is going to play. We just signed a 5th tight end to our practice squad. So, I mean, at this point, why not? We'll bring him too. We finally have a kicker who can kick extra points. I think that this is going to be a close game as well. Probably comes down to the very, very end of the game. 31-30 could be you guys leading 30-28 and us getting a last-minute field goal or something.
Yep.
I could see it.
I see that.
Quarterbacks being 5.5, over 5.5. I'll take over 5.5. I think I could easily see 3 apiece, 4-2. Maybe a Zach Charbonnet vulture in there somewhere. We'll see.
All right. Drew, do you have a winner, a score, and an over-under for us?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Jimmy Garoppolo as a 49er was 2-6 against the Seahawks. Also missed a decent amount of games there. But I'm going to take the Rams this weekend. It's in LA, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I'm going to take the Rams. And look, I think that as great as he's playing this year, I saw what the Rams could do to Sam Darnold a year ago. And I don't know if it's going to be this close shootout that everyone expects. I'm going to go 31-14. But I'll take the over on the touchdowns because I think Stafford will have a big game.
All right.
Hate that. Love
there
that.
You go.
But hate that.
Okay, so 31-14 Rams win, and you're over the 5.5 touchdowns. Sounds good. Okay, there you go. Okay, so those are our predictions this week. It's a special week since 2 of our teams are going against each other, so we focus the predictions on that. It'll be a fun game to watch for some people, and I wish those people all the best. I wish it would be fun for me. But for me, it will not be fun. For me, it will be terrible. But it is going to be, quite something for people to talk about all week long. So it'll be good. So, all right, that's going to do it for this week's episode, though, our NFL show. We are going to, see you guys next week for, the results of this Seahawks-Rams game. We'll talk about that on next week's show. In the meantime, though, like and subscribe here on YouTube. Hit us in the comments what you think about the 2024 QBs. Did the Giants get it right firing Daboll? We want to hear your predictions for Rams versus Seahawks. Where do you think the teams have an advantage against each other? Things like that. Let us know. Follow us on Instagram at Dingers and Stingers. Just generally be excellent to each other. Take care of yourselves. And in the meantime, enjoy some football. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.